All right, so let's go ahead and do something real fun here. There's one very common characteristic in all programming language, which is called concatenation. So concatenation is really a way in which we can actually glue together two variables to print them out, right? To show them in a console or for the user to see. So that is what concatenating two things really means. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a string explicitly. You see the difference there? I'm going to say this is James. I always use James. I don't know why, but that's fine. And I'm going to create an int. I'm going to explicitly here. It's going to be age. Let's suppose Mr. James is 45. But while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and say, create another string, call this last name. Okay, and I'm going to call this Bond. That's why I call Mr. James Bond, because I like James Bond's movies. All right, so we have here three variables: name, last name, age 45, which is an integer. Very nice. So let's say we want to print all of these out at once, like in one nice line. So what we're going to do, we're going to say print. And of course, we can go ahead. Up till now, we have learned just to say name. That's such. And then if we go ahead and run, so Control R says James. What if we want to say something like this? James Bond is 45 years old, right? This expression, this string here, this sentence. How do we accomplish that? Well, likely in Dart, we have a way to do that. The way we do that is very simple. So let's say we want to go ahead and say James Bond is 45 years old. What do we do? Because everything is going to be a string, I'm going to put everything in double quotes or single quotes, but I just like to use double quotes. And I'm going to go ahead and say $ as such, okay, because now I want to access the variable name, but I can't access it by saying name because now this name is not a variable that we are trying to invoke. It will be just a string. And so for us to actually access variables instead of a string, we prefix it with a $. It's like that. Now let's check this out. If I save this and give it a run, you will see it says James. But the beauty here, like I said, we are inside of a string here, but it means we can write whatever else we want here. And I give it a run, it's going to show as a string. But we still have the James here, which is being called as a variable because we have here the $. So this is good news because now what we can do, we can say James. I can also add last name. I can say is, and then I can say age. Okay, now if you save this, you're gonna say it says James Bond is 45. There we go. Very nice. And now we were able to glue together all those pieces, variables, in such a way, and we added whatever we want to add inside because we're still inside a string. Literal, as you can see there, and we can add our own string. In this case was the is. All right, so now if you see, it says James Bond is 45. So we always use the $ and then append it to the variable name that we want to display inside of our print, which also means we could say print. We could have say hello there, say name, okay. Run, says hello there James. I could have also said last name. It's going to say hello there James Bond. Now let's say we wanted to, and then we haven't talked about methods or functions yet, but I'm going to show you something real cool here, what we can do. So let's say we actually want to add an expression, right? Not just one variable, like an expression. What do we need to do then to enclose everything? Let's say we want to make this last name all caps, likely because we're talking about last name is a string type. It's an object. We haven't talked about object yet, but you will see what this means. That means we can access certain properties or methods, right? For instance, if I want this last name to be uppercase, I would have to make this an expression, which means I will have to put the $ and then squiggly bracket like that and close. because now this is going to be called as an expression, which means inside here I can do all sort of things. I can say dot, and look at that. I can call certain properties on our last name, which is a type string. In this case, I'm going to say to uppercase, like that. So what this is going to do, you're going to see, I'm going to there, look at that. So it makes all the letters in our last name here to uppercase. Now, check this out. If I remove the braces here, get rid of them, this will still work, but look at this, what's going to happen. It's just going to say bond.to uppercase, because now it's going to value it, whatever comes next, as just a string. So not necessarily something that we're calling on our last name, which is a string, which is, of course, a method that converts all of the letters in our last name into uppercase. So it's very important if you have an expression that you want to add to actually put inside of curly braces, like that. Very nice. So what I want you to do now is to play around with this concept here, create as many strings, as many integers or booleans, all of these types that we've created, we've learned about, and play around this concept, concatenate everything and try to make them into expressions. And I know this may be a little bit confusing since we haven't talked about objects, we haven't talked about methods yet and all that stuff. But for those of you who are a little bit advanced, have done some programming in Java or Kotlin or any other programming language, you will understand what this is. Okay, so play around with this concept and I will see you in the next video.